Now, Andrew, I met you, let me go back, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it was through a mutual friend of ours that I met you. And even back then, I remember you told me then about Livco. And you were talking me about, do you think you remember, I remember you telling me about the cleaning company that you had, or that you had been doing, and Livco. I remember going, this is a dude that strikes me that would never I would ever find in a 9-to-5 job. I would never find you in a normal sort of job. You've always been destined to be entrepreneur of some kind.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of, at least for viewers and listeners at home, and even for myself, a bit of a background, because I know originally New Zealander.
Yep.
I know obviously came to Australia and started the clothing brand Livco. Give me 60 seconds of sort of coming over from New Zealand to Brisbane, and then the inception of Livco. I can start there.
Yeah, so essentially, obviously originally from South Auckland, New Zealand, and where we grew up in New Zealand, we were always told, teachers, friends, family, we were going to be nothing and we're not going to succeed in life. We're just going to be another statistic. And I was like, okay, there's a little bit more to life than this. And I'll be honest, I really wasn't going anywhere in New Zealand, and I kind of just need to get away. So my mum's originally from Australia. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to come over the ditch. And my first job here in Australia was doing gym sales. When they sell gym memberships.
Oh, yeah, CBJ.
Yeah. No, not at CBJ.
Not CBJ?
This was Go Health Clubs.
Oh,
Go
gotcha,
Health Clubs back in the day. And I was walking through the mall, and this lady, Kira, who was her name, she was trying to sell me a gym membership. And I remember saying to the lady in return, I was like, if I can sell a gym membership, can you give me a job? Anyway, she said to me, come in for an interview, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this is Vanessa. Still to this day, Vanessa is in my life. She has been one of my mums the whole way. But she taught me a lot in business and so forth. But then being in the fitness industry, I've still been in the industry 10 years now. It got to a stage where I was like, there's more to life. Started a business that you don't know about. It was a company with one of my best friends back in New Zealand called Flush Fitment.
Flush Fitment.
So we used to do all the imports for mag tires, all that type of stuff back in the day. So all the JDM cars and all that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't really know much about it. I was just I saw this business venture. I'm like, yeah, let's go all in. And so I used to fly back and forth to New Zealand all the time. And I was on a flight home from New Zealand one day. And when you've got the plane and you've got 3 seats, 4 seats, 3 seats. I was sitting in the 4-row second one in, and there was these elderly ladies that were sitting with me, and they were about 65, 70. Yep. And they were trying to learn how to use the touchscreens. And because I know what I've done, I've put my seatbelt on, I've picked a movie, and I put my headphones on, and they're like, excuse me, can you give us a hand? So I've shown them how to do it. And we got chatting, and I was like, oh, you're going overseas for a holiday, or do you live there? And they said to me, no, this is our first ever holiday.
No way.
And
okay.
I'm hold on. So you guys are 65, 70, you're just going on holiday now. And we got chatting, and their partners had passed away and so forth. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And she's like, we've now realized in life, we've worked so hard that we haven't really done a hell of a lot. We've just been existing in life. So I was sitting on that plane, and I had a birthday card from a friend, because it was around my birthday that I was coming back, and I still have the exact drawing where I was like, people need to start living life to the fullest rather than just existing in life. And every time I was going back to New Zealand, I was finding that people around me in my circle were just still doing the same shit day in, day out. And everyone I was speaking to was saying the same thing. And so I still have the exact envelope that I drew our first ever logo on the plane that now became our brand today.
Wow. Okay.
So so that's kind of essentially how the idea of Livco started. And I didn't really have any money at the time. My Flush Fitness business that I was with had failed.
Yep.
I was about 30 grand in debt, and I'm freaking out. What do? I need to start this brand. How do I do this? So there was a thing called Kickstarter. Have you ever heard of Kickstarter? Yeah. So it's GoFundMe in a sense. So I pledged for I think it was $2,500 to start my clothing brand, and let's kind of see what happens. And first 2 weeks, there was one person that backed me. And then a week later, there was another person. So we've got 7 days left, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm not going to hit this. The brand's done. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I think in the end, we finished up for the 30-day pledge that we did. We ended up $4.5 grand.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm like, holy shit, this is cool. And that's essentially kind of how the brand started. And it was we used that money to buy the clothing, sent it out to all the people that backed us, used that money again to buy some more. And that's kind of essentially how Livco started off the back of an idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting one. So you were talking about the original business that you were doing in New Zealand, and that failed.
Yeah.
Now you sort of jumped into and did the Kickstarter to start obviously Liveco, and you had the idea and the story there of talking to people and bringing that together. Did you have at all any qualms or any thoughts where you're like, oh man, I failed, I surely can't go and do something else again? Did you have that mentality at all? And if you did, how did you try and reason yourself to go, no, I've got to go and give it another go? Because I've personally talked to a lot of people who they did try something once. In fact, I tried something, a supplement like website online. It was in 2013. And I remember doing like reviews through it. I was trying to do some bulk ordering, and up to a point I went, oh, it's can't be bothered. Like, this is not working. I'm not getting any people. Stopped. And for a long time, I just didn't do it. So I was like, if it failed, then what are the chances it's going to fail again? Probably heaps. How did you get yourself to just go again and try?
I think it was because I was in business with somebody else. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't their fault. It kind of just happened where me going into this business alone, I was like, it's only me.
Gotcha,
like,
okay.
I've got to go all in. And if it fails, it's on me. I can't point the finger. No one can point the finger either. It just kind of is what it is. But then the second thing that comes to mind is it was a passion of mine. Not the clothing side of things. It wasn't the clothing side of things, because if I'm going to be honest, anyone that knows me, sees me on social media, I wear a basketball singlet everywhere. Yep. Basketball singlet and snapback. I'm surprised I'm not actually wearing it today. Yeah. And that, I think it was the purpose of getting my message out there to as many people as possible. I think that's probably why I went so much all in on it. Okay. And, it's funny, I actually created a video before, and you might have actually seen it as well. It was the talking back when we first started, where it's just like, people told me that they would never buy it. It's not going to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And now these people are like reaching out and going, how'd you do it?
Yeah. So Liveco, when it first began, so you obviously got the money, got the 4.5 basically, and you're like, okay, damn, I actually got to do something now. Where were you living in Cyprus? I think you were living in a pretty low socioeconomic area. Was that sort of right?
Yeah, no. So I, when I first started the brand, I was actually living with an ex-partner, and we were doing it out of our house. We had obviously split up. I lost everything. Clothing and all, lost it all. Okay. And it was kind of like starting from fresh again. And I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. So I had to move back to my mum and dad's house, and I built the brand out of my parents' garage. So anyone that knows the Logan Reserve area,
I know it extremely well. I know the exact area.
And anyone that knows the suburb of where my parents live in Logan Reserve, they will know that if they walked or they drove past my parents' house any night of the week, Monday to Sunday, and that garage door was up, I was in there working. And it could be anywhere from 9 o'clock in the morning right through to 3 a.m. the next morning. There was music playing, and I was there sitting at my desk. It was all the stock was behind me. My parents' stuff was in there. And that's kind of how I started off the back of people started to know my story, because they're like, hold on, you own a brand and you're doing it out of a garage? What's the go with this? And this is back when Snapchat used to be cool, and people used to message me and ask me things, and I kind of built a community around that backdrop, if that makes sense. Yeah. What
was the motivator? You talk about obviously 9 a.m. to 3 a.m., right? Was the motivator then that, okay, I've started another company, I want it to be successful? Was it purely I want it so that I can be financially free? Or was there more behind the drive of being like, I'm going to be there long hours to make this work?
It was probably more the long hours. It was more to prove a point to teachers, friends, and everyone else that told me that I couldn't do it, and just to get a normal job, just to be a normal person. Yeah. And I was like, fuck that. Sorry, am I allowed to?
No, you're allowed to swear for sure.
Yeah, I was like, fuck that.
How did you, because I've had this sometimes, and my mate Kyron's had it doing the podcast, because at the very beginning when we were doing, people were like, what are you doing wasting your time doing this? Like, a lot of the time. How are you dealing, do you continue to be friends with some of those people? How did you deal with some of those conversations when you had, potentially family, teachers, friends who were like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Like, you got to go and do something proper.
If I'm going to be honest, probably I was still socializing around these people first 2 or 3 years into the business. Yep. I probably would say that I've stepped away from a lot of these people, because, if they're saying that, to me, like they obviously don't believe in me and their life or anything along those lines. I want to socialize around people that believe in what I'm going to do. And even if they don't believe it, they're still there in my corner backing me going, you can do this, you can do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Until it gets to the point where, you know, in a rational view, you might be like, okay, like you say with the previous business, okay, it didn't work.
Exactly.
And you got to a point it didn't work and it's like, okay, that's a clear cut or a rational view. But to say, you know, just say to a friend or a family member or something like that to be like, okay, no, this is not going to work, like flat out.
Get a
without,
job.
yeah, it's kind of like, especially knowing, and it seems like you yourself, your background, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you were like super young, did you ever have any idea that you wanted to work at a job? Like, what was your mentality as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old? Were you a person that looked up and was like, oh, I want to be a policeman? Or were you always like, nah, I want to sell something?
Yeah, man, I think that, and it's funny, I was actually talking to somebody about this earlier today. If we go back to when I was first living in New Zealand, when I was like 10 or 15, between the ages of 10 and 15, my mum owned a printing company. So the old school way of marketing. Old school. Okay. So I've been around that my whole entire life. I understood how that worked. And because she could never leave work and school holidays to look after me, I always had to go to her work. So I was always seeing these business people come in. We're talking like, the CEOs of Rally New Zealand, V8 Supercars, like Coca-Cola, like these big people are coming in and chatting and having meetings with my mum. And I'm like, I want to be just like them. Like, I want to drive the nice cars. I want to do that. And it's like, I saw my parents, I wouldn't say they struggled, but they busted their asses to get to where they are today. And I'm like, I want to create a life for them and give back to them after everything that they gave back to me. And, and I learned that whole print side of things.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't want to work for anybody else again. And the thing that probably got me, and as I was saying to a mate today, back in the day, before Alibaba, before AliExpress, before any of that was even a thing, there used to be this website. It was like AAA something.com. You used to buy these random things from, and I used to buy them at like 15. And we have a website in New Zealand called Trade Me. It's like equivalent to like eBay, Facebook Marketplace type thing. And I used to buy these things from China and resell them on there. And I remember my first ever sale, it was like 3:00 in the morning. It came through, and I remember waking up just before going to school, and I'd made like $150. And I'm like, hold on, wait. So you're trying to tell me that I could be asleep and I'm making money? Like, that is messed up.
Was that where it hit? Is that like the penny that dropped where like that first sale, you're like...
100%. But I kind of wish now, looking back on it, I understood it a little bit more and went all in. But I think if I didn't go through what I did in life to get to where I am now, I probably wouldn't be here I wouldn't be as far along, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, looking back, and you can always go like, oh man, if I'd gone really hard either on, Google search terms or et cetera, you could be like, oh, it could have been a whole different story. But at the same time, you didn't know what you didn't know then. Plus, there's a lot of the story that makes you who you are today that you wouldn't have gone through in that process. So interesting. You say the first sale ever, that thing where you woke up, before school and at 3 a.m. there's a sale. Can you remember the first sale as well for Livco in terms of like just the apparel? What was that first sale as well, and what was that like? And then what subsequently was the first big challenge you had with the company?
I definitely do remember that first sale. I think it was like, I don't even think I remember the first sale as much. I think it was more the first share on Facebook when somebody shared it.
Okay,
and I'm like, hold on, somebody believes in my message. They're sharing it amongst their friends. And then it's like, I think it was like 10 shares, 30 shares, 300 shares. And I'm like,
hold on a moment.
Like, this is crazy. And it wasn't about the dollar figure at that point in time. It was like, hold on, my message is getting out there.
Yeah. There's eyeballs coming onto this.
Yeah, like, man. And we even, what's her name? Kate Ritchie from Home and Away back in the day. She shared our stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And I've still got the screenshot on one of my external hard drives somewhere of the first ever share, because I was a massive Home and Away fan back in the day. And I was like, no way, she shared, like, it's got that far that, people were sharing. And we actually, like, through our Kickstarter period when we first started, we actually had some really big business people actually come on board and purchase our stuff on the basis that they believed in our vision.
Wow.
Yeah, one of them being Sarah Irwine. She's a very successful person, and she checks them from time to time. And for her, it wasn't about the clothing. She saw the message.
Just sort of believed in the message.
She believed in it. Yeah, and that's 5-6 years ago, and every now and then she'll still check in.
That's really cool.
And even though she's got her life and doing her thing, it's cool for her to check in. That's probably like the wow moment from back then.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And what about the first big challenge that sort of the first big roadblock that came its way to growing that sort of business?
I think the first roadblock is I wanted to try and keep everything here in Australia. That was my thing. I wanted to get everything manufactured in here. I wanted to keep the money with inside Australia.
Yep.
But it came to a point where it was just getting too hard. Like my expenses were way too high. The manufacturing side of things was just way too expensive.
Yep.
And I had to seek to go overseas, and I didn't actually realize how hard it was to go overseas.
Gotcha.
And the mistakes that I had made. For example, we brought out basketball singlets when we first started, and we're talking like a male's medium wouldn't even fit a size 10 female. Or even probably struggle to fit a size 8 female. And I'm like, hold on, I've got 100 of these basketball singlets that's just cost me $2,000.
And it's going to fit no one.
It's going to fit no one. I can't do anything with them. And I'm just like, well, what am I going to do? Back to the drawing board again. And it's like, I reckon that first initial trying to get overseas and trying to find a manufacturer that was great was hard. It was tough.
Did you go down the path of going out yourself overseas to the warehouses to do that? And if you could do it all again, would you have done that, gone out there and trying to have those conversations? Or did you find... What was that way that you found that actually helped you connect with the proper warehouse, the proper suppliers? Yeah,
so I give a big shout out to a guy called Simon Phillip, who used to own a company called Fitwear. And he really helped me out with this. So essentially what he did is he sent me like this email script that I still use to this day when trying to find new manufacturers. And so I go to Alibaba and I will find, so if I'm doing like hypothetically a male t-shirt, I will send 50 messages out, step by step, a brief on exactly what I want to know about their company, blah, blah, blah. Depending on how they respond to that email is depending on whether I take them to the next round. And the next round could be, cool, let's move over to Skype, let's move over to WhatsApp, let's chat a little bit more. And then, so, out of 50 people, I'll probably narrow it down to about 10.
Gotcha.
Chat to them a little bit more, see what their communication skills are like, try and figure that out. Not always go for the cheapest price.
Yep.
Communication was my big thing, because at the end of the day, you can get a cheap price anywhere, but if they don't know what they're doing, it's going to cost you more in the long run anyway.
100%.
So then move them into the next round of, communication, seeing videos of their factory, going for walkthroughs, so forth, and would probably then narrow it down to about 5 people. And so I would give them all the exact same brief. This is a male hoodie. I want this design on it. This is my sizing chart that I want. Bear in mind, I didn't know what the hell I was doing with sizing. I was kind of winging it. This is my sizing chart. This is my logo. These are my colors. Make me a sample. Send it to me. And do you know what? All 5 samples were different. Ooh. Every single one of them was different. The materials were different. So even if you said 100% cotton, there's all different types of cotton.
Yep.
Different. The coloring was different. Their Pantones, whereas in RGB, it was completely different.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that's when you start to realize. And then what I would do is I'd go look at it and go, okay, out of these 5, 2 of them completely rubbish. 3 of them, communication was poor on this one, but they were able to get close enough to the brief. Can we work on that? Can we not?
Right.
And it really just came down to just trying to find that fine line of good pricing, communication, and can they follow a brief?
And I think what screams out to me in there as well is some people go, let's take the example of apparel, right? And they go, oh, well, here's the process and this is what you have to do. Awesome. But as you said, you'll go down the path of, okay, Alibaba or any other supplier path that you want to go down to. What's the cheapest way that I can undercut everybody? What's, that you can do? And you might even hit up 1 or 2 people, but it's just all those underlying checks and balances that you don't go through to then find all of these challenges and issues. And then, you might try and fix all of that with a particular supplier, but you're never going to get to the product that you actually ever wanted with that particular one. So it's all these extra layers of checking that some people might go, gee, that seems like a lot of effort, but it's the effort that then pays off in the final product that actually goes well. If you want to sell a product that people want, especially when it's like a tangible thing, when you're selling a digital product or something else, okay, maybe it's slightly different. But something that you're going to be wearing and you want to be wearing quite often and you want it to see in terms of, the wear and tear and the actual look and feel and the material. Okay, that's something different.
Man.
You want it to actually be sensible and you want to be standing behind it as well.
Yep, exactly.
Have you seen your apparel out in the wild?
Yes.
Have you seen
it? Do you know what's actually funny? I have friends and family that see it more than I do, and it frustrates me. They send me photos. Maybe I need to get out a little bit more. Maybe that's where I'm going.
Maybe that's what it is.
But yeah, I do see it out and about, and honestly, the feeling is unreal.
Yeah.
We've been in business coming up 6 years now, and you think that you'd be like, oh yeah, it is what it is. But even when I see friends, they're just pop over. They'll just be coming over for dinner or a drink. like, I don't say it to them, but the feeling inside is like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you're like that's good. That's a good
exactly.
feeling.
And if I've been out and about, and if I see, like, for example, there was this young guy, he had one of our hats on, and it had been, you'd seen he'd worn it a lot. Like, it was getting tattered. It was getting bad. And I just happened to have some spare hats in my car, and I went and gave him one, and he didn't know who I was until I obviously had introduced myself. And he's like, man, I was going to buy one anyway, blah, blah, blah. But to me, he was a representation of my brand. And it shows that he was wearing it, like, it showed that it had lasted his time, because he had it for a year. But I was like, let's give him a new one, because he's obviously wearing it out and about. More people are going to see this.
Oh, yeah. It's worth its value in gold. It's those sort of individuals who will scream out of the top of the building for your product. That's what you want. So what does it look like today? What does Live Coat look like? I know the recent Christmas party. For people who, we'll talk about it, the socials and whatever, at the end of the podcast. But you sort of did like a little boat cruise sort of Christmas party, and there's quite a few people. So what does Live Coat look like? There's a few people now who work there. What does that look like? Yeah,
so we essentially don't have any offices. Everyone works remote. So we've got a warehouse, which all our stuff gets packed in and so forth, but everyone works remote. I've got a great team that is here in Australia. We've got teams that work overseas, and we've in Philippines, Mexico, New Zealand. And they're all amazing. But obviously, because we don't have a massive team here, what I decided to do this year is I decided I'm going to throw a Christmas party. I'm going to give back to everybody that has kind of been a part of the brand over the last 2 or 3 years. So what we did essentially is we invited, obviously, our staff that were here. We invited models that had been for us, subcontractors that had worked for us. And then what we decided to do is, like, we're going to reach out to 5 Queensland customers that have supported us the most over the last 12 months.
That's a good idea.
And we're going to invite them and their partners down. And to be honest, like, when you don't actually know these people and you're inviting them onto a boat and there's alcohol involved, and I didn't really know much about it until, like, I'd spoken to my lawyer about it. It's like, there's insurance thing because they're on your time. Like, if something happens, I'm freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? Like, what happens if somebody falls overboard?
Exactly.
You don't think about something. You think just throw a party and it's going to be sweet. No, there's so many other things.
There's all these other things.
Yeah, man. And we invited all these people that I had no idea about. And you know what? They were the most amazing people. Like,
okay, that's good.
The day was unreal. Like, I kind of wish that I had done something sooner. I wish I had done something sooner. So now moving forward, I think we're going to do something like that all the time. So for example, we've got a photo shoot that's going to be happening in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks that we're kind of developing out at this point in time, and it's kind of like a beach one. And what we've decided to do is we're going to invite our customers to come to the photo shoot. We're going to have the boats, the Barbies, the bears, the jet skis. We're going to have everyone out on the water having fun, and we're going to create the content at the same time. It's not going to be staged. It's all going to be real. It's because I think that sometimes with the brands is everything is so staged. I want it to be real. Like, I want people to see the real stuff of,
just come and enjoy yourself.
Come have a bit of fun. And, we're going to create content around that. Because obviously, essentially, that's what the brand is, living life to the fullest.
So living life to the fullest. So I think that's a good point to get us to, that was Livco. Obviously, it's the apparel brand. But it's time to go broader than that. Right? So you're talking about, living the brand. How would you describe where you want the brand to go? So are you trying to expand it just with the apparel brand, or are you sort of going to a broader sort of view to go, okay, how am I expanding this further? How can I, at least I'm not putting words in your mouth, but how can I almost support and provide more energy and my own experience back to the greater community?
Yeah, man. So we really want to get into, like, action sports in a way. I think we have missed our mission for a long time.
Okay.
We didn't really know. We knew what our vision was, but we didn't really have our mission statement. Like, we knew it was all about living life, but we were creating some forms of content that was just very basic.
Okay.
And it wasn't really living life to the fullest. And it was a bit of a realization that we had as a team, where we all sat down and we're like, okay, we really need to figure this out, because if we want this to scale, we need to get bigger. So I think big end goal is we really want to be on everything. We want to be on, we want to be with wakeboarders, we want to be with skateboarders, we want to be with surfers, we want to be with action sports, but we also want to be with gym people.
Yep.
We want it to be an all-round type of brand that people can wear when they go to do something active.
Yep.
We essentially, at start, we didn't want to be in the activewear game. We wanted to
At
stay,
all, no.
no, we wanted to stay as far away from that as possible. We wanted
Yeah.
to stay as far away from this, and this is the first time that I'm probably ever putting this out public.
Yeah, okay.
Is we are going to be moving into the fitness space, but not fitness, more the active
More the
space.
active.
More the active space.
Why originally not the case? Because obviously, everyone and their mum was, a couple of years ago creating fitness apparel. Like I know, I remember talking to Eddie's himself who started Do You Even. I remember on the bodybuilding.com blogs.
The forums back in the
I remember
day,
talking to him when he was starting it up.
Yeah.
And then everybody was just trying to start up a fitness brand at some point. Was there something to that you were like, everybody's doing it, I want to do something different? Was that kind of the path?
Man.
Yeah.
It was that. Everyone was doing fitness brands. I worked in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
There was a big, bad stigma around that fitness industry at that point of time. And I was like, oh, I need to step away from this. And I'm going to do lifestyle brand. And essentially, it is an active lifestyle brand. That's essentially what we are going to be moving into. We want to make it so that, because let's be real, we go for a walk, we put some form of activewear on. We go to the shops, we put some form of activewear on. So that's what essentially we want to get into that. And so we want to make it that great that when people put the stuff on, they feel good.
Yeah.
Just like when people, like the start of the year, it's January at the moment, everyone's getting to their fitness goals. They're going out and buy new Nike, Adidas, Muscle Nation, all that type of stuff to make them feel good, because they feel like they're really...
You do, yeah.
Yeah, so if we can make them feel that and they can get that via our videos and images, happy days.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Now tell me about ambitious lifestyle as well. So where did that begin? When did it sort of cross into the realm of reality, and when was it just a figment? Like, what was it? It was an imagination piece, and then actually got translated into okay, let's make this a reality.
And so the ambitious lifestyle essentially started with Livco.
Yep.
So if we go back to some of our muscle tees back in the day, it was actually on a lot of our muscle tees, the ambitious lifestyle. So the ambitious meaning strong desire, lifestyle being lifestyle. So a strong desire to achieve the lifestyle that you desire.
Yep.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to detach it from the brand. And that is going to be my personal life model, which is ambitious lifestyle, never satisfied, always hungry.
Yep.
That is what I considered my lifestyle, so that I can then create a platform to help people to live the lifestyle that they desire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that branching into creating that as well, was it a choice because you felt personally like, okay, I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to start doing this now that I've sort of set up this business and that's growing now at its own sort of pace. I want to start now looking into different places. Was it more so just that, or was there anything else that sort of like, did you get people telling you like, oh, you should be doing something like this?
No, I think from a young age, I think growing up in South Auckland, I seen so many people around me, they were always in violence, fighting gangs, all that type of stuff, that I realized that they had so much more to give in life. And one of the big things, and it's still on our website to this day, is I want to get to a stage where I can help people. And I now feel as though that I am at that stage where I can help people, because a lot of these people from a young age that are, stuck in, the violence and stuff like that, there's an underlying issue. There's a reason why they do what they do today. Even for example, back in New Zealand, graffiti is huge. Like it is known, you put your tag out there, that's your mark, blah, blah, blah. But some of it looks impressive. Like we see it around the streets, like some of the art.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
That looks cool. There's obviously a reason why they do it. So let's try and figure out how we can pull them away from that, and actually turn it into a business and a lifestyle that makes them happy.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've now created the ambitious lifestyle to educate people, business, finance, all that sort of stuff, how to build products, digital products, business products, and market themselves online so that they can achieve the lifestyle that they desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so with that one, how long has that now been going for?
So ambitious lifestyle's kind of just been hanging in the area. We haven't really pushed it as much.
Yep.
Lately, we do a lot of one-on-one coaching.
Yep.
But 2022, we've decided we're going to go
that's the year.
All in on it. So we're building out platforms, systems, and processes where we can teach people exactly how to find their purpose in life and create a business from that.
Gotcha.
You know, and sometimes it might not even be creating a business, but actually just so people can find their purpose. You know, their purpose could be, you know, being a rubbish truck driver. It could be anything.
Yeah.
So let's try and find that purpose, and let's put them in a business, and then let's structure their finances so that they can live the lifestyle that they desire,
Exactly.
rather than stuck into a 9-to-5 job that they hate.
No, 100%.
You know?
One of the great questions that I always like to ask, and like when people ask of others who are entrepreneurs, is always a question of how you stay disciplined on more of a daily basis to do the things that you have to do. Because, and I'll give you the example just recently, right? I had 3 weeks off from work. So I just have like a 9-to-5 job. It's more like a 9-to-6 sometimes. And it's totally fine. I enjoy doing that for the temporary time being. Is it going to be something that I'm going to always do? Probably not. But I've never been a person who, you know, I came over from Colombia. I had a big push from my family to be like, study, get a good job, get secured. Now, I started to slowly, obviously, dissipate to do different things.
You forgot the married and kids.
Hey?
You forgot the kids and marriage.
Oh, yeah, of course. The kids are married. Oh, with the Colombian family, they're like...
Your mum's like, give me some grandkids.
But they don't push it. They don't push it hard. Although they probably will as I start to get older. But one of the things I found the last couple of weeks where I had sort of a break from work was there were some days where I go, like, I know I've got to do some stuff to be productive with the podcast and a few other things. And I just don't feel it to do so, like to do this day in, day out. If I don't have that existing rigidity of the 9-to-5 structure, I kind of don't push myself in the working sense. I do that when it comes to like fitness and other things. Totally fine, because I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
How would you structure, so maybe you could give an example of a day to make sure that you are disciplined to do the work, or alternatively, just broadly, how do you stay disciplined to just do the work that you need to do day in, day out to, like, you know, be able to do the ambitious lifestyle and run, live, go, and do everything else that you want to do?
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot in, I'd say, the last 7 to 8 months. It's changed drastically. Okay. Back in the day, it was, I used to just wake up at whatever time I want and kind of just start my day and work right through until early hours of the morning, 1, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. Okay. Realizing that it wasn't sustainable no more, because, you know, friends, family, they want to go do things. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't, I'm working. Like, and it just wasn't healthy.
Yep.
So I've now structured things completely different. So and this isn't to try and say that I'm better or cocky or whatever, but a good friend of mine, Josh, said to me, he's like, try the 4 a.m. Try and get up at 4 a.m. Because one of my good friends, do you know Dan Lau?
I do know Dan Lau. I don't know him personally, but I do know Dan Lau.
It used to be back in the day. It used to be an ongoing joke. I'd be going to bed and he'd be hitting the gym at 4 a.m. It used to be an ongoing joke. I'd be like, bro, I'm going to bed. Good night. Blah, blah, blah. He'd be waking up. Anyway, I'm like, I've got to try this. I've really got to try this. So I do this thing now where it's like 4 a.m. First thing I do, get up, breath work. And what I do is I journal for the first probably half an hour of my day. So I write down what I want to achieve for this year and how I'm going to achieve it. I write the same things down over and over and over again. And the reason I do is because every single day it changes on not what I want to achieve, but how I'm going to achieve it.
Gotcha.
And I find that every single week when I read back on it, I pick up something and I'm like, actually, that's actually a really good point. I'm going to really push on that. So that's probably the first thing I do, write my tasks out for the day, and I have my 3 major tasks. And as long as those 3 major tasks are done, I am now free to do whatever I want after that.
Gotcha.
And I think another thing is having a great team to be able to also hold me accountable. Even though being the director, you'd think that you don't really have any accountability, but some of my staff, like I say to them, like, ride me. Like, no, not like that, but like as I say to them, like, get on my back and like really push me, because like I know what I'm like. I can be lazy too. There's days where I might not do any work for like 3 or 4 days and be like, oh, so tired, like just want to look. And you know what? It's okay to go have a nap. It's okay to go for a walk, because as soon as you go for a walk, you clear your mind, you're out of the zone of you just being frustrated because you're not achieving anything. Your mind starts ticking over again. It's like, we're on here.
Okay. Here's
come
the
back.
refresh.
Then come back. So I find that now, as soon as I get like a block or anything along those lines, go for a train, go do anything. And I think a good thing that I'm doing at this point of time is, you know, fitness is your life. You know, you love to train. Fitness is my life. I love to train as well. I will not go and train until I've done those 3 major tasks.
Okay.
Because I find that now, like, you go to the gym, you know what it's like. You do a heavy deadlift session, heavy squat session. Your brain is frazzled. Like, you are like fried afterwards. But I find that if I do all my work that needs to be done, I go and reward myself by going to go train. And I'm not thinking, oh, I need to get in contact with somebody. I need to do this P&L. I need to do that. It's done.
Yeah.
I can go to the gym, I can hang out with some friends, go have a cocktail.
Make it easy. And I think it builds a great habit as well, because it's
man.
this whole, the reward system of, you know, if you establish that you get up, you do your breath work, you do your journaling, you actually get the things that you must get or you need to get done.
Yep.
And then you go and reward yourself doing something. It's like builds up this great behavior of, okay, well, once I do this and put in the effort, then I can go and enjoy myself and do whatever I want for the rest of the day. And I know what you mean with the beginning of the day. So I've always been a morning person.
Yep.
I'm slowly migrating myself like even early and even early and even earlier. But in a similar way, you know, some people listening to this, and often I even get this question, it's like, what do you mean you get up so early and you do, you know, journaling for half an hour and you have time to do this? And it's a little bit like, look, you've got to make things fit to whatever you can also make it fit. It might not be that you do half an hour journaling. So for me, like, I can't read at any time throughout the day apart from early in the morning. And so for myself, I got, okay, when I wake up right early in the morning, I will have a coffee and I will sit down and read for 15 minutes before I look at my phone, before I do anything. I'd sit down and I'll read whatever book I'm reading at the moment, as much as I can in 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And then I'll sort of finish my coffee, then I'll go to the gym. And then by that time, I'm all set up. And by the time I get to work, I've like read.
It's a great feeling.
It's awesome because you've gotten
man.
a lot of these things that you want to do out of the way. And then I go and do my other stuff. Now, whether you put it in that structure, you do it in a separate way, it's kind of, as long as it's repeatable, that's when it's phenomenal. But that's for me when I moved into this holiday period where I was kind of doing nothing or very low things. And I was kind of went, well, I got my gym out of the way and it's like, I'm missing the structure. So it's nice to see that, you know, for you, it's the 3 big key things that you want to get done in that day, get them done, and then kind of the day's yours.
I think also like writing an actual to-do list for the day, like an actual paper one. Because like I've got my to-do list on my computer, I've got my Trellos, my staff give me a to-do list. Actually physically writing it down and scratching them out when you go to bed at night. And you'll know this as well. If you feel like you haven't done anything, you're laying in bed, you're like, what did I actually achieve today? But knowing that you've crossed every single one of them off, they're all done, it's like, I feel good. And you know what? If you didn't achieve those things, write your to-do list for tomorrow before you go to bed and put them on there so that way you go into bed, you're like, that's okay. It's on my to-do list tomorrow. I'm going to make that happen.
Exactly.
Those are your first 2 things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
2 questions, and I'm not going to forget, because we're talking about goals there, so I'm going to talk about monthly or yearly goals, or that sort of respective one. But before we move away from that, you mentioned staff and people. And I want to ask you a question, because it's always an interesting one to me, is finding the right people is always a bit of a challenge, right? And finding, especially the people, because for me, I want to find a good sounding board. Right? Personally, like I want to have a good sounding board, whether it's something I'm doing with business, something I'm doing personally, etc. I just want to have people that I can trust. How did you go about trying to get the right people to be your sounding board or to be in your company? Did you kind of just wing it at the beginning? Do you have a bit of a structured way of like, you know, who it is? Or is it a gut feel still at the moment of, it just feels like they're going to be the right person to challenge me and for me to be able to work and get stuff done?
If I'm going to be honest, I have kind of ran a solo plane for a long time. Like I've kind of just done it all myself. It's probably only in the last 2-3 years that I've allowed people into my life. I'm a very secret person. I keep a lot of things close to me.
Why do you think that is before you move that way?
I think a lot of it comes from a lot of judgment back in high school.
Okay.
And, you know, judgment from people that teach us things. You're going to them because you need help on learning something, because you don't exactly know what to do, and they might just embarrass you in front of everybody. So I felt as though if I just kept my cards close to myself, no one knows about it, so I can't get embarrassed, if that makes sense.
I'm safe.
Yeah,
I'm safe.
It was literally a safe zone. But yeah, now I've got some amazing people around me. I've got a close group of friends. Even, you know, what was it, the first week of December, I sent them all a message. I'm like, look, this is what I'm doing this year. I'm like, I'm writing you down as my accountability coach. Are you in or not? And they're all like, fuck yeah, we're in. And I've literally got it in my diary as my accountability coach. And one of my staff members, Marianne, she sent me a message this morning, and she's, just before you came, she's like, hey boss, just want to check in. Here is the personal branding checklist. She's like, I need you to go through this and do this in depth. I need this done by Monday. And it's like, it's Friday, like Saturday, Sunday. No, I need this done by Monday. Yep. Okay, cool. Like, and it's just good to have those types of people around you. People that believe inside your vision.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
So going back now, goals. Do you personally set yourself your own yearly goals? So there could be business, and there could be personal. So you can answer in both ways. Do you have yearly goals? Do you have long-term goals? Do you have monthly goals, daily goals, any sort of goals? What's sort of the goal structure that you might apply to yourself or to the business?
Yeah, so I've got with Livco, we've got like a 3 to 5 year goal.
Okay.
Personal goal, I don't really have a 5-year goal due to the fact that you don't know what tomorrow's going to come. You don't know
what your 5-year-old self's going to be realistically doing sometimes.
Where I am now, I would never have thought where I was going to be, 5 years ago. So personal goals, I don't have really big personal goals, but I really structure my everything down. So I break them down. So I'm like, okay, what is my 12-month goal? I break them down to quarters, I break them down to months, I break them down to weeks, and I break them down to days. So even to the point where I know at any given time how many people need to see our stuff, conversion rate, sales rate, how much we need to be spending in marketing to be able to do that. And even for, all my other businesses that we have as well, like, I'm in business with my parents too. And I just, give them the breakdown too. Like, this is, if we need to hit these numbers, if you want these numbers, we've got to hit these. And this is just purely based off our average last year. And if we can do those, we're hitting it, and I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to goals is, people do vision boards and mood boards, and don't get me wrong, they're great. They look pretty. I've got one, but if you don't have a step-by-step guide of breaking it down, how are you going to achieve it? Because what we're going to do is we're going to be laying in bed at the end of the day, looking at our vision board going, oh my God, I want the Range Rover. I want the pretty house. I want this. But we've got no systems in place to achieve it. So this year was probably the first year that I really went in depth where I'm like, I am creating myself a 12-month life plan. So if hypothetically I was to die tomorrow, I could hand that off to somebody else and they could carry on my legacy for the next 12 months. And they can use that structure to then double it again.
Now, I want people to really understand this if you're listening. So I've done this personally. So I, just very quickly, so I've got like a, I can, not long-term, like a life, not goal, but like aspiration of what I would say if I were to see what other people would aspire for me to look like or what I would want to look like, that would be like a terminology description. And then we break it down to yearly, monthly, and then within the month there's like daily tasks. But that takes a long time. Like it takes a while. How long do you think it would have taken you, and it might still be going, to set up that 12-month plan, that very detailed or very, aspirational and definitive guide for yourself?
I reckon, so I did this just before Christmas. I reckon I probably put in about 40 hours worth. 40 hours where I was brainstorming everything. I was looking at, our P&Ls. I was speaking to my accountant, if we do this, blah, 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 looking at average order values, speaking to our staff members. And it's all well and good for me to have these goals and what I feel as though our business should be, but also speaking to my staff. Where do you picture us in 12 months' time? Because at the end of the day, I want my staff to be a part of the journey as well. And, I reached out to Matt and I'm like, look, this is kind of where we're at this point in time. What are your thoughts on these goals for next year? And he's like, nah, man, we can do more. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's exactly what
you want to hear too.
That's what I want to hear. Like, I'm being conservative here. And you reckon we can do it? He's like, yeah, we can do more. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do this, man.
That's when you get excited. That's when you got to smile and be like, all right, here we go.
That's when you got good people working for you.
No, exactly. 2 last questions I want to make sure we're going to get out of you. One is, who are the people you still look up to, sort of that you look up to and go, man, they're the sort of people who are driving me to do really big things, if you've got people like that, or if it's an idea or if it's a particular goal you might be able to share. So that's sort of the first question. I'll let you sort of think through that. The other one is like, it's a question I sometimes ask myself, and I always find it a bit of a refreshing question. What's something that's got you really excited right now? Something that's got you like super, super excited. So you can take either of those questions first, whichever comes easiest.
So people that I probably look up to the most at this point in time, probably the people that I'm probably most grateful for is my mum and dad. Like, I wouldn't be in this position where I am today if it wasn't for them. They sacrificed so much for me to be in the position that I am. They sacrificed their life by giving it up, leaving New Zealand to move to Australia. When I had my football career as well, they were every single game. I remember Dad used to having to finish work at lunchtime to come pick me up 4 days a week to go to football training and stuff like that. They sacrificed so much. So definitely my mum and dad. But in the business space and people that I look up to that really inspire me. One of my good friends, Josh Jones, he's absolute gun. He's amazing at what he does, and he's from back home as well, and just seeing him get to where he is just absolutely amazing. My close friends, they're just out of this world. Those are probably the people that I look up to the most, and my staff.
Yeah, okay.
My staff are, big time. Matt, Sarah, Marianne, Brian, like they are people that I definitely inspire to. I'm going to go a little bit off topic here.
Okay.
I'm going to give you something. So I've got a guy that works for me, right? And it's a story that I love to tell people all the time. And this story is, he came to me, he messaged me on Facebook one day and he said to me, he's like, I want to work for you, blah, blah, blah. And his English wasn't very good. I'm like, I didn't really know what to do, like type thing. I was like, what can you do? He's like, I don't really know what I can do, but I can try help out. He had a phone. I said, okay, well, can you design? And he's like, I can't really design, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, how about this? I'm going to teach you how to design. I'm going to give you a task, go away, do it, come back to me. He's like, okay. And because obviously he's based in the Philippines, he called me sir, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. So I sent it away. 2 weeks gone by. I hadn't heard from him. I didn't really think much of it. He comes back to me with these designs, nowhere near what I was wanting. But the fact that he had gone away and come back, I'm like, this is cool. I said, how did you manage to do this? You told me you only had a phone. He's like, I was going to my pastor's house every single day after school to oh man, it's unreal. So he was going to his pastor's house every single day after school to learn graphic design.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, go away, do this thing again. Came back and it still wasn't the best. I paid him for it. He was really happy. He sent me a photo of bags of rice because it was like, I think I sent him like $100 US. No, it was only like $50 USD, I think it was. $50 USD. I sent it to him and he sent me a photo back of him, his mum, and bags of rice going, thank you so much. You've just put food on our table for the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm going to go on a bender on a Friday night and I'm going to spend like way more than that. Like this is crazy. Anyway, couple of months had gone by and I was just about to go out for dinner with an ex-partner of mine, and I get this message from him going, sir, like I need some money. And I'm like, look, I'm gonna go out for dinner, like I'm probably gonna drop $150 on dinner. I'm sure I can spare this guy $100, like it's gonna be fine. So I PayPal'd him the $100. I went for a shower, I came back and I noticed that he refunded it back to me, and I'm like, why did you do that? He's like, no, I don't want your money, I want to work for it. And I'm like, huh? Like, what? He's like, no. He's like, I don't want your money. I want to work for it. Can you give me something so I make sure that I'm giving you value back? And I'm like, holy hell. To this day, he works for me full time. He works for me full time. And
as a designer or is doing something else?
So he's one of our designers.
That's brilliant.
He does all our illustrations and stuff like that. And he still works for us to this day. And he is an absolute gun. And it's funny, like when he first started with us, he was only on like $10 USD an hour or something along those lines. He now charges out at $35 USD per hour, third world country. He's got some of the stuff that he has now. I'm like, man, like you're obviously earning way too much money. Like this is crazy. And he has built this life and it is unreal. And I could still, from time to time, I'll go through old messages where he sent me bags of rice, photos of his family. And I'm like, so he is definitely a massive inspiration as well. The fact that he did everything he possibly can to get to where he wanted to be.
If that is not a definition of the ambitious lifestyle, I don't know what it is.
100%, man.
That is incredible.
100%. And like, he's connected me with some of his friends and, when he's got too busy, he's outsourced it to his friends. So it's like, I've essentially helped one person, but then he's helped another person. So it's like, I've helped one, he's helped one. They're then hopefully going to help another person. That it just keeps moving over.
And it's not to kind of to say to people, like that story is not to say to people, be open-hearted and be open-minded to the nth degree, because there's possibilities that you can get absolutely taken for a ride.
100%. I thought I was going to be. Yeah,
right. Man. But like in this instance, it did work out right because you were being open-hearted and open-minded with it, and he was possessing that. I'm sure there would have come a point as well when you would have realized if it wasn't going that way, that you would have been like, okay,
enough's enough.
That's enough.
Yep.
But in this case,
Yep.
it sort of made a fantastic goddamn story. Like,
Yeah.
is that anywhere on the website or anything? Because I reckon that sort of...
No, man, it's not. But we will put it on the Ambitious
Okay.
Lifestyle website. So we're getting our Ambitious Lifestyle website built out at the moment.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll definitely put that story on there because, man, that's
Yeah.
it's unreal. I tell people it all the time, and like, you know, I've got obviously we can't show the camera the photos, but like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Sorry to go off topic
It was
here.
giving me goosebumps.
Yeah,
Like, I
man.
tell you, I was like, oh man, because I'm currently in my work. I work with some people who are offshore as well. So
Yep.
some in South America, some in the Ukraine, and you can just tell like the tenacity of people who just want to work, like, and not for
Their
like, just do
drive
money,
is
like
unreal.
give me work. And it's sometimes, I mean, it's the benefit and the blessing that we're in Australia, or
Yep.
we're in a country where, you know, wherever you may be, that's like you can go and do things. You have the availability.
Yep.
Like when you're talking about the ambitious lifestyle, we're saying like we have the ability to do a digital product for sale or to start your own market.
Yeah,
You can
man.
kind of do whatever you want.
You can literally do. People don't realize how. I'm going to give you another story. I love stories.
Yeah.
Right? So one of my clients came to me, and they are a beauty company. They do all fake eyelashes and stuff like that. They reached out to me on Instagram, and they're like, "Look, we want to scale our business. How can we scale it? We're fully booked out. We're stressed out. We're tired." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. How can we look at this?" So I really thought about it. I'm like, what exactly can we do? And she was doing one-on-one teaching girls how to do it. I'm like, how about this? Let's get my videographer involved. Let's get my photographer involved, and let's film step by step on exactly how you would teach somebody if they were to come teach one-on-one with you. And they're like, really? Is that going to work? Blah, blah, blah. Like, no, trust me.
Yep.
It's going to work. And they sent me a message at the end of last year. So we started about August. They had made something like, I think it was like $66,000 in profit within like 6 months
Wow.
of just doing this. And I'm like, you can literally
Yeah.
make money from anything these days. And you've just got to want it, have a purpose for it. You can literally do anything.
Yeah. I mean, and that the first story as well just gives you the perspective of being like, you know, if an individual in the Philippines who is going to the pastor's
Yeah.
house to go and design something and learn, you better believe that from a perspective, you know, you don't have it too hard.
Yeah.
And you've also got, you can make things work to find it. Like, and all the way back to your original story of
Yep.
the Kickstarter, right? You know, if you don't, if you tell me you don't have the money, you can go out there and
Yep.
and find people who can support you, right? There's people who
Yep.
are going to support almost anything. And in this day and age, with the connectivity that you have, especially if you're in a first world country, it's nigh on impossible for you
Yep.
not to go and try something, or at least try it. I mean, thanks for sharing those stories. That's
I sometimes
brilliant.
feel, man, like I sometimes kind of think like maybe I should just have everything ripped from me again. Like absolutely everything just taken away so that I can just start from scratch and go, because I've got the knowledge.
Yeah.
When you've got nothing else to fall back on,
You can, yeah, you're
you're
one
only
way.
going to go up from there, you know?
Do you might know, I believe, probably Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
So you know, so Gary mentality of being like, you know, he's sometimes being like, yeah, just let it go all to zero because that would be exciting. Like that would
Yeah,
be
man.
fun to be like, okay, cool, let's rebuild it again and go through the whole
Yeah.
sort of journey. So what's got you really excited? What's one thing that's got you really excited about right now? It doesn't have to be about, like in the business.
Yeah.
It could just be anything, any topic.
Probably two things. Life and happiness. That is a big thing that I'm really, really focusing on this year. Happiness and the mindset. So understanding how the mind works and really diving into my inner self. That is a big thing that I'm really focusing on this year that really like lights me up.
Yep.
After doing breathwork, meditation and journaling, like there's days that I'm not on, but there's days where I'm on and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fucking on here. Like
Yeah.
it is like, you know, sometimes they do like breath work with like psychedelics and stuff like that. Like I've never touched drugs in my life, but I'm like, I'm assuming that's what it feels like. Like it feels amazing. That's one thing that lights me up. And the second thing that lights me up the most is the ambitious lifestyle and educating people.
Yeah.
I find that after having conversations with people and they come to me and they're like, Andrew, I want to start a business, I'll walk away and I'll be so fired up or so G'd up. Like
Yeah.
I will literally put my whole business on pause to go help somebody else out
Yeah.
to get that off the ground. So yeah, building the ambitious lifestyle out at this point in time and what we're going to do in the digital space, it's a big thing for me at the
Good.
moment. Yeah.
Big things to come.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew. Well, look, how exciting. Look, we touched on a few things. I'm going to say on a few things. There's a whole host of other things I know
Yep.
that you have done, and obviously you're sharing some of those through your socials. What are places people can either find you, yourself, Andrew, or you know, Livco, or you know, any of the other businesses that you're doing, what's sort of like the main places you'd direct people to go to?
Yeah, probably my personal Instagram account, which is just Andrew Taylor ____.
Yep.
You'll be able to find the Ambitious Lifestyle, Livco, Royal Innovation, Liver Media. You'll find them all.
Yep, all
under
through
there.
that.
That's just my personal channel. Yep.
Brilliant. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm sure as people start to, when they listen through this, I would definitely say, if you listen to that story about, people being ambitious, most of our listeners are mostly based in the US, most of Australia. We've got a lot in India.
Love
So
it.
I'm going to say specifically as well, if you're listening to this all the way to this point and you're from India and you're thinking, it could be ambitious. Dude, do things like that where you can
Go
be
all
like,
in.
put in the effort
Yep.
and be like, because you never know when things might work out in such a good way.
It's like you see those memes all the time, it's like digging for gold.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're just
that little bit
right
there. Yeah.
Just right there. And it's like, even times I've been like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm done. And people are like, no, just push that a little bit further. And it's like, boo! And you're like, what?
And it was just that
Yeah,
little
just that
extra
little bit
effort
extra,
that made
man.
all the difference.
Push that little bit extra further and they're going to hit it.
Easy. All right, Andrew, anything else to sort of take away for listeners at home?
Go 100% all in.
Good. All right,
100% in.
Andrew, appreciate it, man. Thank you for
Thanks
the
so
time.
much, guys.